you doing?
Hey, not too bad. How are you?
All good, all good. So yeah, thank you for taking some time to talk to me. I'm excited to talk to you because I'm a big fan of what you've been doing. And like when I first discovered you, I was like, Haviah Mighty, that's such a cool name. I wonder where she got that from. And then I found out where you got that from. So
Yeah,
like
my parents.
from your parents, so you didn't even have did at any point did you think about like coming up with like a different name, or you were always just like, nah, that works?
It's that's a good question. Yeah, no, I don't think I ever thought about a name. It just made sense as it was, and it never occurred to me to need an alias because I guess the name just kind of sounds like one already.
It does.
Interesting. Yeah, because I've gone through processes of like trying to figure out like, album titles or um like song titles and stuff, but I've never gone through that process with my name, which is like probably like the most kind of dreadful, kind of anxiety provoking one because it's like everything you are and it's like what people will call you. So it's nice that I never had to worry about that.
Yeah, for sure, because I'm sure there's a few people out there that have come up with a name like early in their career, and then like their careers developed, but they just wish that they hadn't gone with that name in the first place.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of people that actually change their name after already achieving success because they don't feel it's representative of who they are, which is, I get that. I totally get that.
yeah. So, you've been very prolific already, like with getting music out there. And even in the last year and a half, when some people have been really getting into the music and some people have almost stepped away from it completely because they just don't feel inspired. But I feel like you've taken the time to like knuckle down a little bit, maybe. Would that be the case?
Yeah, like when everything kind of happened in terms of like the pandemic and shows being canceled in the whole year, like the trajectory of the year looking very different. My pivot was, well, music at the end of the day. Like I make music, I have a studio in my house. I luckily invested in some resources right before the pandemic to create kind of the quality of music that I wanted to make, like in my basement. And so that was like the pivot for me was like, well, just make music. Like there's nothing else right now. And those songs, those individual songs that were not supposed to be a body of work became a body of work based on the releasing of the records and how each song had an interesting perception of value through the releases, which led to, stock exchange kind of coming together and then me putting these songs together as a collective. And I would say like, in addition to that, doing a lot of behind the scenes work that I hadn't had the opportunity to do, cool challenges like production for companies that are pretty big, like Holt Renfrew, not being the artist that's singing, but being the producer and the engineer and playing that role,
Yeah.
or, voicing the DoorDash commercial, the different things like that. Those things were also coming in while I was working on my music, while I was doing virtual performances. So it was a lot of work. It was just different. It looked different. And, in a weird way, terrible times and like there's so much bad that has come with it, but in a weird way, like I as an individual I'm grateful for kind of the expansion that I have had mentally over this time, learning how to almost like increase avenues of revenue, but like also increase avenues of like optimism and inspiration and challenging myself in ways that I probably wouldn't have if I was busy playing shows all year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's a good attitude to have, and obviously being able to take a step back and just like focus on something is probably good, not only for your music but for your mental health, and being able to find the positivity in a bad situation. I think that's really important, so I commend you on that. And
Thank you.
this year you've already released like a lot of singles, but you mentioned that you have this mixtape coming out, which is November 12th. At what point do you decide to concentrate on releasing individual tracks, and at what point do you think now we need to put out a collection?
Yeah, like at first I was like, I don't want to release an album. Like I was seeing like a lot of artists who had albums that they'd been planning, like having to release it in this like time of not being able to tour the tour that they had planned, or just not being able to do the rollout the way that they wanted. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that. So I was just going to put out tracks that requires no rollout. But with each song that I put out, what was initially anti-theme or anti-concept, I started to realize the theme of putting these songs out is the perceived value of each song, almost like a stock or a bond, like based on likes, engagement, comments, streams, things that are validating in a business sense, but like having to differentiate that these things don't validate you as an individual, but they're really important to like these stats and data and analytics are important to apply to business. But you have to remember that it doesn't mean that if a song doesn't do as well, that you're not doing as well that month. Like, just, it was a really interesting distinction that I had to come to. And the project being called Stock Exchange was seeing the parallels between the stock exchange and kind of like the digital perceived value of a thing, and how that's important to the business, but so separate from me as an individual. And as an individual being a musician, I am, you know, I recognize that I am a commodity still, but I'm not gold or silver or, you know, any of these things. Like it's a differentiation. And so it's an umbrella of thoughts. And that's why a lot of the topics and themes of the songs that I rap about or sing about are like self-validation and self-worth, and like almost like allowing myself to brag about these successes and things I've achieved, because it's set that those ideas and those concepts are separate from how good the business is perceived to be doing. Like that's one thing, but like how I perceive myself is very different from how like the digital world, not to mention it's digital only. It's like computer, it's people behind the computer screens, like on the internet that don't even know you, that are determining your worth based on one thing that you put out this month. It's interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many ways to measure success, and it means different things to different people. But for you as the artist looking at like a long-term career in music, what do you define as success? Like, is it your lifestyle? Is it, you know, I'm sure it's not likes and things like that. Is it money? What is it for you?
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind stock exchange is that it isn't that. And like, while we still have to rely on that in this industry, and that is understood, I get it. It isn't that, you know. I think I'm still discovering what success is, but I think I'm already successful. I think, you know, maintaining that success is important, but to be able to be a full-time musician for more than 2 years now, it's not something I could have fathomed even a couple of years ago. And to be able to make music that means something to me and not compromise what that is, and like do things that I love to do, like to me, that is already success. I'm already like able to kind of set goals for like lifestyle changes that I'd like to make. Like I cannot wait to, you know, buy a home, buy a property. You know, I was able to afford a new car when my old one was kind of going out, and I like nice things. It would be nice to be able to achieve nicer and nicer things, but I don't think that constitutes success. I think being able to live a comfortable lifestyle is a big part of that, and being able to like afford yourself that based on doing something that you enjoy doing. Like, to me, that is success, because you can be very successful at a sales job that you absolutely hate, making $150K a year, and have a Maserati, but like hate and dread going into work every day. Is that success? Financially, yeah, but internally, like there's like it could plummet so fast because of the fact that you don't even like what you're doing. And so to be doing something that I enjoy doing, that also allows me to like kind of like set goals and achieve more and more and more, to me, I'm already on the path of success. So
yeah, for sure. Well, you've obviously had like some amazing successes already in your career, and as you mentioned, it's still very early in your career. You know, talking about things like the Polaris Prize, how has that kind of thing like affected your career really? Did it make a big difference, or was it just like a nice moment in time?
I would say it made a big difference in my ability to validate myself, you know. And that's why when people ask questions like, what advice would you give to an artist? I try to like tell people, anybody, that like self-validation is important, because for me, I actually had to seek validation from like outer sources before I was able to kind of like apply it to self. And there's no need to wait for that. Like, if you can apply it to self, you can start to achieve things because you believe you can achieve those things, and not because this entity or this group of people think that you can achieve those things. But, you know, for me, the Polaris helped for sure with, you know, believing I could achieve some of the goals that I had, and not only believing it, but also starting to do that with the win, and getting more opportunities off of the strength of that win as well, people just being like, well, we don't know who to reach out to for this project we have in mind, but like, let's see who won the Polaris, right? And like literal opportunities coming in that way. And so it's been helpful, I would say. You know, I got a lot of my recognition initially from a rap cipher, which would infer that I'm a battle rapper, which I'm not. And so for a long time, I was like, yeah, like I could rap, and I want people to know that I could rap, but I want people to know that I can do so much more than that. And I was always worried about kind of like the restriction of people just not being exposed to other things that I can do. And 13th Floor was kind of like that moment of like clarity, like, oh, like they know I can sing, they know I can rap, they know I can produce, they know that I can create concept, they know I can create impact, like all of the things. I want people to recognize kind of like what all of those things are, because that will allow me to kind of do that continually, rather than being put in and only get opportunities for like certain things that people think I can do. Yeah. You know, because after I did the rap cipher where I got like 2 million views, it was like rap cipher after rap cipher after rap cipher. And it's like, okay, like this is cool. Like I could do this, but like this isn't what I want people to know about me. So I think for the Polaris Prize, like 13th Floor was recognized as the best album based on artistic merit of that year or something. It's like literally the boxes I was looking to tick in terms of like an artist. I wanted people to understand that I want to express as an artist, an overarching artist that like taps into many different aspects of the music industry and not just one. So it helped to create that narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just listed all the things that you are involved in, and you've mentioned the word musician more than once while we've been talking, rather than rapper, producer, or any of that. And I think do you play guitar?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So you do play a little bit of your own instruments as well. And your sound seems to just like pull influences from all over the place. So when you were growing up, what were you listening to? What was the first music you remember hearing?
I feel like I was listening to like mostly reggae, like culture reggae from my dad's side, like Marley, Capleton, Buju Banton, like these types of artists, Richie Spice. And then for my mom, like she was more so listening to like Celine Dion, also reggae too, and like kind of like more soul stuff. And then like I was like one of those kids that was in singing lessons, so I was like exposed to Disney music. And like, I was always singing like stuff from like Annie and musicals and The Lion King and stuff like that. So like, there was a wide range of exposure. Growing up with only girls, there wasn't originally a lot of hip hop exposure, which is interesting. I would say around like the age of 7, 8, 9, you know, I started, you know, getting reference from my cousin with hip hop. And then like, I kind of fell into doing rap or created my own raps, you know, around the age of 11, 12, 13. But that kind of came later. So there was this, and I sing in lessons for 7 years as well, from the age of 4 to the age of 11. So I kind of started with like all these different ways of kind of like utilizing my voice, using my diaphragm, applying it to like different genres of like music. And then I found rap, and then it was like, well, I already knew how to use my diaphragm. I already knew about breath control. I already knew about all these different things that were like kind of technical. And then I was able to kind of just apply like the story writing aspect, tone, delivery, and like, so I think I got exposure from a lot of different styles. You know, I kind of like was inspired by like Lauryn Hill as a younger person, like just like being a female artist who like didn't look the same as a lot of the other ones, and who like rapped and sang and played guitar and like did all these different things, like the Fugees as well, Wyclef. Like I always wanted to kind of do everything, and that was a problem, and still sometimes is. Because you kind of want to market and brand things in order for them to do well, hence stock exchange and that balance of business. Right. But you know, I definitely think I'm finding my sound as we continue. And as I, you know, continue on this journey, I'm finding my sound, and I'm continuing to pull references from many things and learning to kind of like educate people on like what Haviah Mighty sounds like and like why she sounds that way, you know?
Yeah. And like, I've seen that you're going to be opening for the Arkells, which some people would be surprised to see you on a bill like that. But I think that's amazing. And that says a lot about your sound, that somebody thinks that's a good fit. So when you open for a band like the Arkells rather than another hip hop artist or something like that, do you change your set? Do you think about it differently, or you just go in and do your thing?
I try not to change too much about my set because I'm still selling myself as an artist. Like when I'm opening, I'm conscious of the fact that like the Arkells do something very different than what I do. And having opened for them like a fair few times now, like I think I get why it does work with their audience. And it's because of kind of the showmanship, the energy, and like I think the musicality. So even though the musicality is like the genre is very different, there are still a lot of likenesses in terms of like how we approach building a set and like those ups and downs and kind of like that engagement that the audience feels. Of course, there will always be people that are like, I don't get this, you know, because the genre of music that they make is very different. And maybe they get that. They just don't get what I do. Or if they get it, they're not interested in the topics I have to say. But I love that they were willing to kind of work with some, like it was definitely their idea to kind of like bring me in and have me open. So they see something that makes sense for their fans that they know better than I could. And, you know, having performed, like I feel like I get great reception with their crowds. I'm opening from them. I get a lot of like social media engagement post Arkells shows, and it speaks to kind of like not setting up these boundaries and barriers that we think we have to. Like, well, this artist can only open for this artist because they fit this same box, and like they end up on the same playlist, so that has to make sense. It's like, yeah, sometimes we have to do that, and sometimes we don't. And I love that we can kind of like break that mold and like just do whatever we want to do. And for the fans, it's just like a great musical experience. They just want to hear like good music from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. And I feel like regardless of the genre that I come with or whether people feel like it makes sense, there's no deniability of whether the music is good or whether or not it can be enjoyed. So, you know, it's I hope what it's doing is allowing their fans to think like about music a little bit more expansively. And maybe it means that as a band that they want to expand as well. You know, I know they're changing their sound a little bit. I see like their comments from their fans on their, you know, social media posts. And I think, you know, that also might be a part of, you know, their strategies. We would like to try different things and work with different artists and like not stick to the regimen we've been sticking to for many years. And I think that's really dope.
Yeah. And what about your own personal taste in music? Like what kind of things do you listen to just on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, it definitely changes. I do listen to a lot of different genres of music. I mostly listen to like right now, mostly new age hip hop, but I'm getting a little bored, you know. And I definitely want to kind of like expand a little bit and listen to like genres like house, and like old school rap and like genres I'm not as exposed to because I get new school hip hop now. Like I get it and I do it. But like in my car, like that's a lot of times what I listen to, but like it might go to a Celine Dion song, right? It might go to like a house song with no words. There's a lot. It might go to like a Yellow Card song. Like it's one of those things where like there's so much to be kind of extracted from all genres of music, and like you can like sample anything and make it like I could take any genre of music and make it my sound. So it's hard to differentiate when it comes to listening. When it comes to creating, of course, things just naturally come out of me that are like indicative of what I do as the artist of Haviah Mighty. But when it comes to listening, other than like driving in my car, listening to like mostly hip hop, like I have a wide variety of music that I listen to and that I want to be inspired by.
Yeah. And you've collaborated with quite a few different artists. Like, do you like the idea of collaborating with people in different genres?
Yeah. I haven't done that a lot. Like, but like, for example, with Flamenco and Nala Rodriguez, making that song, that was something that was different. And like, also there's that language difference as well too. That was really fun. And people really like the song. And like, sometimes you just have to like try something new and see how people receive it. Just like me opening for the Arkells, for them, I'm sure it was like, well, let's just try something new and see how people receive it. And, you know, I think it's working well because they keep bringing me back. And, you know, much like Flamenco was one of the most, if we're talking about perceived value, it had high perceived value off of Stock Exchange compared to some of the other records, even though it's different than what I normally do. And it shows me that I don't really have a lot of barriers and boundaries. And so I shouldn't kind of set them myself because they don't necessarily exist. So it's something I want to do more. I want to expand more and collaborate with more people and try things I've never done before.
Who would be top of your wish list to collaborate?
Oh, that's tough. That probably changes every day. But like right now, top of the list to collaborate with would be somebody that is really well known and respected, but like also someone that I think would allow me, even as a nobody, to kind of like add my musical flair to it. Right now, Rihanna comes to mind. I don't know why, but it would be really great to work with an artist like Rihanna, because I know she's a vocalist and, you know, probably has a lot of understanding about what that means and how she wants that to come across. But I feel like, I don't know, but I feel like, you know, when she's worked with a lot of producers, she's worked with people who kind of, she's allowed to have a lot of say in kind of like the dictation of a record. So I think it would be really cool to work with an artist like her.
Yeah, well, we've put it out into the universe now, so let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. So what's next for you? You've got the mixtape coming out on the 12th, and then how's things looking after that? Obviously, we know about the Arkells tour. What else?
Yeah, I got a mixtape coming out on the 12th. Some like the release party has been postponed due to health issues. You know, I'm attached to an antibiotic bag right now. I definitely need to get back to 100%. But once that happens, we'll be rescheduling shows, you know, playing some shows with the Arkells next year, some other unannounced possible opportunities of performance next year. Once Stock Exchange comes out, I'm hoping to roll out some like giving back initiatives, hoping to host some giveaways. And again, just try new things, start writing new music, and find new ways to connect with fans. Like we like to have weekly brainstorming meetings, and we come up with ideas every week of what we want to do next. So that'll be happening later this week. And I'm excited to kind of keep that momentum going.
If somebody had never heard of Haviah Mighty, considering how varied your music is, what would be the first song you'd want them to listen
to? That's tough. I'm going to say, just off the top of my head, I'm going to say Tesla. I'm going to say Tesla because I think it's a great representation of kind of what my mentality is. It's a good representation of what my flow is, how I rap, the fact that I can sing, and also the fact that I can produce. It kind of encompasses all of those things. So I would say Tesla.
Okay, nice. Well, I wish you good health, first of all, but I also wish you continued success. It seems like the world is your oyster at the moment. So once you're back on your feet and getting back out there, I just think everything's going to explode for you. So I'm excited to see what happens next. And thank you very much for spending some time chatting with me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, great. All right. You take care.
All right.